Hello everyone, this is Dave and this is Man in the Moon, where we are channeling the Man in the Moon. I don't know about you, but I feel pretty exhausted. I mean, the news is pretty good. Finally, I feel like justice is being served, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. Follow all these stories all day long, it's going to drive me crazy. So, my question really is, here we are in the middle of this. What should we be doing? How can we move forward in a healthy way as individuals, as a people, as people of the world? So that is today's question for Man in the Moon, and we'll just see whatever comes up. So, Great Spirit, what should we do now in regard to our present ambiguous state? Hmm. Hmm. Well, it isn't unuseful from what I'm seeing. I'm actually seeing like a television screen. It's not unuseful to know what is going on right now. I mean, we're all trying to stay very up to date with these very, sometimes incremental changes. It's not a bad idea to note what things are happening, but just to note them, just to say, okay, today this happened and it means this. That's completely worthwhile. It is feeling a little bit like we don't want to go down these emotional rabbit holes every time this happens because it's putting a lot of stress and pressure on our psyches and our bodies. So if you just note it and we try to be somewhat objective, that's one thing. But starting to get really emotionally involved in every step of the way, it's going to kill us. It's just not a productive way of being, and that's not a criticism. I understand why people are like that. So says Spirit. Uh, we are very focused, and that is normal, but it is also harmful. So, Great Spirit, what else should we do? So, one thing I'm seeing people are exercising. Go out and do any form of exercise, any walk that you can do, anything. Really, what is really happening under the surface here is technology. Right? The technology allows me to speak to you in this way. Fantastic. I can be very direct. I'm my own producer. Technology can be used in these wonderful ways. On the other hand, technology is also really, really, as a culture, as a planet, causing us a good many woes. It's putting us through a roller coaster every minute we watch it. It's completely addictive. And if you look at trends of what's happening to youth these days, the increasing rate of suicide, the all of these other things, it's just the net in general is not a net good. It may well be a net harm, and it is causing us just to totally give up our lives as we focus on. There's always more to see on the net. You could do it all day, all night long. So disengage somehow at some point, and just physical movement is the best thing that you can do if you're feeling any kind of stress right now. And go out and be as social as possible. It's really important that you go connect with people and you remember it's not all bad. You might argue with somebody online about some detail of something, which you would never do face to face. Face to face, you would come to try to understand them and their point of view. This doesn't mean you should get yourself surrounded by toxic people and have, arguments. But merely going out and being together with people is going to re-up your really belief in the human race. It will remind you that people are good under all of this terrible political stuff. There are good people, and fundamentally, everyone is a good person, even if they have been very much led astray. Hmm. I keep seeing this very beautiful woman, and she actually reminds me of a psychic that I see, right? And it just reminds me how important it is that we look very much at women and see how they're being treated and notice sexism, and we notice where women are really being misrepresented here. This is really, really key. One thing that is happening is that women are moving forward to take their power, and power that's been lacking from them for, perhaps 3,000 years or more, right? They're moving forward to doing this. And as they do this, we make sure that this is supported. It doesn't mean, men are always wrong or anything, and it doesn't mean that all women are always right. But we have to take a very careful look at sexism as it exists in our society. If you notice, a lot of the things that Donald Trump did were fundamentally sexist things. They weren't just oppression of the feminine, that was certainly an overall theme, but almost everything that he supports and believes is about power over another, right? And that sometimes takes the form of women too. It's not always men that take power. Occasionally, women have done terrible things with their power. You can look at many examples of this. But in general, we have to look at women and the feminine and really, really focus on the virtues that exist there. If there are any things that are not virtues, we have to call that out. But at the same time, we really need to understand women in general and the feminine in all of us, or we will not survive. A change is going on, and that change is toward the feminine. Again, that could be the feminine in a man, but it is towards a more related society. It is towards a more communicative society. All the things that we stereotypically think of women as being better than, and of course that's not always true. This is the society that we might move toward, and it's very important to think about this. Hmm. Hmm. And I keep seeing a person coming out of a sort of a jungle, and it's like, we're out of the jungle now. What do we do? One thing about where we are right now, it's like that zero card when you look at the Thoth tarot deck. Anything could happen now. This is a very positive thing, right? But it's also very confusing. A lot of us don't know what to do now. How do we go about our day? How can we be productive now? It's an unknown. And there's a lot of rubbish to get through before we get to the good part. There's a lot of, whoa, what does all this stuff mean before we get to our new life? But our new life is awaiting us. It's like I see a stand of trees. In front of it is a garbage dump, and I have to walk through this dump. But at the other side, there's a new world. Don't be surprised if you feel very confused at the moment and you have no idea what to do by day. This will change. This is the time when everybody is sort of refocusing who they are, and that will be useful. Take a little bit of time to step back and refocus what you're doing. Anything else, Great Spirit? I keep getting rest. I keep getting somebody opening the refrigerator and taking out a drink, and just being like, okay, now I need to rest. Again, I sense a lot of. It's really important right now that we do take a good long rest and reflect on all of these things and see what they mean, and be a little bit dispassionate, right? And this is extremely difficult. But think a little bit about, what's the practical reality about what's going on, and what am I going to do next? Don't get too hung up on the every detail here, because we have a lot of work to do. And before we can get to that work, we've got to rest, and we've got to have an idea of where we're going, or we will not get there. Now, this is again an interesting image which you might find very surprising. I see an American flag waving, right? What are the original core values of the United States of America? You might sense in them some pretty awful things, slavery, sexism, all of these things that happened. Okay, but America is a process, and in that process, we figured out that those things are important to look at. People made significant steps to give women the right to vote, to bring more equality to minorities. All of those things are what America means. That movement forward, that discussion and creation and fairness where people compete in a fair way, and create something new. Those are the American values, not what what it meant in the beginning, but what it came to believe in terms of liberty. We have completely forgotten about those core values that we spent so much time figuring it out. We had to go back to them and readdress them, reassert them, and say and enforce what that means. It might even be difficult. It might even be possible to do that with somebody that you totally disagree with politically, but come back to what do you think of that value? Right? And if we could go back there and really have a relationship with those values, I should say when we go back there and recreate that relationship with those values, then we will have reformed our nation in a much better way than it was before the last election. Do not assume that because these things happened, everything is bad. We have evolved more in the last 2 years than societies evolved in 30 or even 100 years, right? So don't forget that you have really been through the ringer. If you're completely exhausted, that's absolutely normal, right? It's not unfixable. But remember that coming out of this, we will be that much more experienced, and we will be that much more prepared when we do meet somebody who is totalitarian or anything else. We have a better idea of what to do, how to spend our time and energy. And look how many people have become much more invigorated because of this election. Especially interesting is it's the younger half, the more progressive half. That is what's being really being called to come forward rather than just be passive and pessimistic. We are seeing a good deal of change. So when you go to this, it's not all worries, it's not all bad. Justice is presently being served. Congratulations. That did not happen accidentally. Every viewer who's watching participated in that act. And just as you put forward your consciousness, you put forward the idea that justice would one day face this administration, and it is. So don't forget to congratulate yourself and remind yourself, now it's time for me to recognize where we are right now, having succeeded in delivering the initial blows that will end this presidency and this party for some little time. It might even be good that Trump's the president for the next 2 years, not 10, God forbid. But even that 2 years will mean that people will again be forced again and again and again to listen and watch as this president reveals who he really is. That might be for a greater good. We don't know about that. But I feel confident now as I'm watching this flag sort of waving that it is, this is America. This change and transformation is the United States doing what it must do to get back to the good values that it had as opposed to the terrible values that it may have one day embraced. Right? On that note, thanks for watching.